We're about to start. Please make sure your phones are on silent. Okay. Good afternoon once again. I'm Yasmina Shazli, and I'll be moderating the final 2 sessions of this conference. Sorry about that. This session is entitled Genealogy, Administration, and Reuse. And our next paper is by Dr. Raymond Johnson, titled Newly Identified and Joined Amarna Talatat Reliefs Depicting Prince Tutankhaten and Kiya. Was Kiya Tutankhaten's mother? And it will be delivered by Dr. Christian Bayer. Please join me in welcoming the speaker.
Yeah, thank you very much. I hope you can understand me and everything is working now because I'm here. So first of all, let me just give best greetings and regards on behalf of Raymond Johnson, who unfortunately could not be here with us today. And he asked me to give his talk here, which is an honor for me to do so. And on the other hand, it's also, there is a link between Ray's work and Hildesheim, where I'm happy to be the curator of the Egyptian collection there. Because as many of you know, Günter Röder in the 1929 to 1939 campaigns stumbled upon more than in his more or less last campaign in 1938 to 39 to more than 1,000 Talatat blocks, which he were not able to document in the year when they were discovered. As I told you, it was very late in his campaigns, in his 1 decade in Hermopolis. And due to the Second World War, he was not able, of course, to continue his excavations in Hermopolis. He tried to continue them after the war, but this did never happen. But what happened is that in 1959, he got a funding for 1 campaign to go to Hermopolis again and to take photos of these blocks. And these photographies are fortunately, they were a bit of an odyssey. Finally, they arrived a few years ago in our museum. We digitized them. And so me and Ray are in very close contact about this Hermopolis blocks, because you know the publication may be from Günter Röder from 1969, when he published all the material. And just recently, our museum got a letter from Röder to one of his pupils or students who learned hieroglyphs with him, and the Röder was very aged at that time. You know that he did not fully finish the publication. And there he mentioned that hardly even a German reader could read all this, what he wrote on these blocks, and even he himself was confused about what he has written in his book. So therefore his book shall be replaced. Röder himself regarded that this book is unreadable to any German reader. So if you are not a mother tongue speaker in German, do not even try to understand what he did, and fight you to all these different kinds of paragraphs and references and all this. Röder himself was not very comfortable with this. So therefore, Ray's work is very, very highly recommended on my behalf. So to make it more comfortable, by the way, and it might be that I speak a bit quick, you could follow Ray's talk on any slide. So I will basically read what Ray has written on the slides. So the final demolition of the stone monuments of Akhenaten, Tel Amarna, took place during the reign of Ramses II. You see here a model of the central city from the Pharaohs of the Sun exhibition, now in the Amarna Site Museum. Hermopolis is the best known site for reused blocks from Amarna temples and palaces. Horemheb and Ramses II reused thousands of Amarna Talatat in their Thot temple pylons and courts there. Horemheb reused Amarna Talatat blocks in the Thot temple proper, Ramses II, later in the first pylon and pronaos area. Seti II reused mostly uninscribed Talatats in the adjunctant Amun temple. And you see here two pictures from Röder and an updated map of the excavation maps Röder did. Between 1929 and 1939, over 1,500 Talatat blocks from Amarna reused by Ramses II were recovered in excavations of the Thot temple at Hermopolis by Günther Röder from the Römer and Pelizaeus Museum in Hildesheim. These were published in Amarna Reliefs aus Hermopolis in Hildesheim in 1969 by Röder and Rainer Hanke. At that time, Röder was already dead. Hanke published more in Hildesheimer Ägyptologische Beiträge, volume number 2, in 1978. Most Amarna Talatat at Hermopolis were excavated by Röder, in particular in the last season, but more were pulled up from the site by the local villagers during World War II. This is why in the publication by Günther Röder you find so-called PC numbers. Röder had also an elaborate numbering system for the blocks, even though confusing. And to make it even more confusing, he uses PC for private collection numbers. And these are the blocks which were pulled out in that time. All Talatat are approximately the same size, roughly 52 by 24 by 26 centimeters. Röder and Hanke made some excellent joints, but believing more joints were not possible, they published the Amarna Talatat reused at Hermopolis in many different scales, enlarging those that they thought were most interesting. This made new joining almost impossible. And you see here two examples from the Röder publication with 6 different scales, at least in these images. By the way, on your left side, the upper left, the lower left block is the first Talatat Röder stumbled upon in his excavations. This is the Talatat with the man sitting on a chair or on a stool together with another male person, whatever and whoever this person was. Reducing and enlarging photocopy machines and scanning now allow same-scale duplication of most of Röder's published blocks, which can then be arranged by categories, making joints possible. Here you see what Ray did. For the last decade, this author's research has focused on joining additional Hermopolis blocks from Amarna. Possible joints can be assembled on sheets of paper, and the missing bits can be drawn in manually or digitally. Here you see an offering scene in progress. When blocks are inscribed on both sides, the two decorative programs help join these blocks. Here the reverse and the front. Now, to come to the topic of this talk, to Kiya joints and questions. In 2013, this author joined a Talatat in the Metropolitan Museum of Art and another in the Neue Karlsberg Glyptothek Museum that depicted Akhenaten and the eldest daughter Merit-Aten, named in the text behind her, sacrificing ducks to the Aten. These two blocks will be joined and displayed in the exhibition Amarna, City of the Sun God at the Neue Karlsberg Glyptothek in January 2023. However, Akhenaten's companion originally was not Merit-Aten. Traces of erased inscription behind her preserve the title of Akhenaten's greatly beloved second wife, the enigmatic Kiya. Kiya and a daughter appear at Amarna around Akhenaten's year 11, and both disappear before his death in year 17. Her coffin and canopic jars were reused in KV 55. In her reliefs, Kiya is always associated with the late form of the Aten's names and the later Amarna style of relief carving. Kiya is non-royal. Her name is never in a cartouche. She never has a uraeus or a streamer at the back of her neck, never wears a crown, and the Aten never holds life to her nose. Texts there indicate that the Norse palace was built as a separate residence exclusively for her. The Maru Aten was inscribed for Kiya as well. Kiya and Nefertiti both lived at Amarna at the same time, but their titles and iconography make it very clear that Nefertiti was much higher in status than Kiya. After her disappearance, Kiya's names were erased and changed into the names and titles of Akhenaten and Nefertiti's eldest daughter, Princess Merit-Aten. When her carved figures were changed to Merit-Aten, Kiya's layered Nubian wig was always cut away at her forehead, recarved into a prince's side lock, and a bald prince's cranium was added at the back of her head. Among the Hermopolis blocks, there are many more figures of Kiya than Nefertiti from temple offering scenes, as well as palace scenes. She played an important, if still enigmatic, cultic role at Amarna. Why she was there is still a mystery. Now, Ray would like to show some extraordinary scenes featuring Kiya, starting with this block. By the way, this is a scan of the original photos which were kept in the municipal archive now in Hildesheim and which were fully digitized in the meantime. A marsh hunt block published by Röder with erased and modified hieroglyphic text. And the join made by this author in 2015, showing the metropolitan block belonging to this rescanned block, with a bow, a recarved head of Queen Kiya, erased small-scale text with Kiya's name, and papyrus and arrows. A life-size scene of Akhenaten and Kiya hunting on the mesh edge is what Ray reconstructed out of this two joints together with three other blocks he things belonging to this scene. The life-size hunting scene on the blocks, probably from the Norse palace of Kiya, was copied in miniature by Tutankhamun's craftsman on the gold shrine found in his tomb. There, Tutankhamun is depicted in Akhenaten's role and Queen Ankhes and Amun in Kiya's role, as you could see here on the slide. There is a second life-size Talatat hunting group of Akhenaten and Kiya in reverse orientation, including a pool with fish pierced by arrows, also copied by Tutankhamun's craftsman on his ivory chest. Here you see a detail of the stained ivory chest from Tutankhamun's tomb. The names and titles of Kiya's daughter are always erased and reinscribed with the name Merit-Aten Tascherit or Ankhes and Pa-Aten Tascherit. Often the prince's original name and titles were in two vertical columns over her head, replaced by one. The name and titles are so carefully removed, the daughter's name remains unknown. In some cases, Kiya's daughter was entirely erased, both the name and the figure, as Ray is showing you here an example. And he joined these two blocks showing original Kiya and a daughter. In the corpus of Amarna blocks reused at Hermopolis, erased and recarved texts and female figures always indicate scenes of Kiya and her daughter. Now come to Hermopolis blocks from Amarna that feature Prince Tutankhaten. We have already seen these two blocks, so therefore I need not to say very much about them. And they belong to a joint which Ray made, we have already seen earlier. Tutankhaten is the only princess attested at Amarna in any text, and this author follows a model that all representations of princes in the Amarna Talatat are of Prince Tutankhaten. The Prince Tutankhaten block was inscribed on Bu's long sides, indicating two decorated rooms separated by a thin wall. The reverse of the Prince Tutankhaten block depicts the upper part of a lavishly decorated royal kiosk with pendant ducks tied to the columns and a grape wine heavy with bunches of grapes. Both sides of the thin wall were probably inscribed with family scenes featuring the prince. This suggests that the captions naming Prince Tutankhaten and a royal daughter were in the upper part of a scene that depicted the two of them below on the laps of Akhenaten and a spouse, like the captions over the children in the famous Berlin stela below. So the Prince block number 2, Röder's number 433 from campaign number 8, C, which is the side of the block. Römer's numbering system is really elaborate and complicated. Family group with child in male tunic and kilt seated on the lap of an adult. Published and identified as Prince Tutankhaten by Mark Gabold in Das Geheimnis des Goldenen Sarges, München 2001. This Prince block is also inscribed on Bu's long sides. The reverse is inscribed with part of a large offering pile. The Röder number is given here. This author recently joined Röder's number 433 and so on, bottom, to 3 other blocks, blubs, 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 numbers by Röder. You see here the 3 blocks. The large offering pile would have looked like this. This is Ray's fantastic reconstruction of the offering pile. And the other side preserves more details of the prince and the setting. Significant additions to the prince's family group are text, illegible, and the back of the prince's cranium, servant pulling rope, upper part of floral kiosk with grape wines that frame the royal family. And now Ray presents you with a provisional reconstruction of the prince family group. 2 overlapping adult figures and a set of arms, Prince Tutankhaten on the lap of Akhenaten, the princess seated below. The position of the royal family towards the top of the kiosk suggests a raised bed. Servants pulling a clapnet rope, maybe. Floral kiosk or pillars decorated with flowers and papyrus. And all this is his tentative reconstruction of this Tutankhamun block. The context is a bedroom, a garden, a boat, Akhenaten, Kiya, and Tutankhaten. Here, Ray presented you with parallels where his tentative reconstruction is based on, and as he wrote, the analysis of this scene is ongoing. Now another example, Prince block number 3, Talatat, Metropolitan Museum 2006, 102. 2 royal males, an adult and a youth, walking side by side in affectionate embrace. Both wear royal male kilts and the prince has a stomach and navel shaped similar to that of Akhenaten. The Talatat MMA 2006, 102, provisional reconstruction of the king and prince by the author. Here on your right-hand side. The possible context is a torchlight procession, block lines, scale, and style all match. You could see here what Ray's tentative reconstruction of the scene is, and the parallel of a king leaded by a female figure is, of course, the Berlin leather whatever work or used for Egyptian Museum 21684. Another example of the of a potential depiction of Prince is here in race number 4, the Rödel block 652. And what you see here is a drawing from Röder's Amarna reliefs aus Hermopolis, plate number 18. Hanke's reconstruction of the original scene with the placement of Talatat block Röder 652 is Kiya offering a bouquet to the Aten in a temple shrine. Here you see Hanke's reconstruction from Hildesheimer Ägyptologische Beiträge, volume 2. And he supposed that the height of the shrine should roughly be 5 meters. Hanke was correct that the block came from a set of temple shrines, but his reconstruction of the offering is in error. Kiya is not offering a bouquet, and the Aten is not offering life to her nose. The Ankh is tiled away from Kiya towards whatever is in front of her. So you see the rather sketch drawing by Hanke and the more elaborate reconstruction drawing by Ray. What then is in front of Kiya? It must be a human figure, since the Aten holds life only to Akhenaten and Nefertiti. One might expect the king and Kiya embraces here, but there is no ureus, which means this figure is not the king. Princesses do not receive life either. So you might come to the conclusion what is going on here. But a prince might receive life from the Aten, and here you see Ray's fantastic drawing of this one single block and what it might belong to. The prince's side lock is when Akhenaten depicts himself as Shu in the Amarna tomb of Api, he sports a princely vertical side lock. This author has used that side lock for Prince Tutankhaten throughout his presentation. The supposition is seated on the lap of Kiya, similar to the scene in the Saqqara tomb of his royal nurse Maya. But here it is not a nurse, but his mother, ? And Ray's tentative reconstruction here is based on the relief in the tomb of Maya, which he shows on the left-hand side. The context of the scenes seated on the lap of Queen Tiya, carved on the outer wall of a double or triple shrine, is what, according to the scene originally reconstructed by Hanke, Ray is here supposing. And again, the height of the shrine, like Hanke has already estimated, could be 5 meters. The possible location of this is a back shrine of the great Aten temple, Long Temple, where Barry Kemp and his team have been excavating and restoring walls since 2021. Here you see photos and plans from Kemp's publication. Supporting evidence. The back shrines of the great Aten temple's Long Temple are the same plan and dimensions as the Kiya Akhenaten shrines, and the least 2 relief blocks which erased texts and 1 erased princess were found there during the recent restoration work. They indicate the presence there of revised reliefs of Kiya and her daughter, and suggests that this is the location of the Kiya Akhenaten shrines. So, to come to the conclusions and to the end of Ray's presentation. Conclusions, questions, and models for consideration. First, Kiya is a major figure at Amarna from about year 11 of Akhenaten, late Aten's name, late art style. She has her own palace, the North Palace. Kiya and Nefertiti were resident at Amarna at the same time. Nefertiti's role is clear, but what Kiya's role is not so clear. Second, blocks inscribed for Prince Tutankhaten and for Kiya are found reused together at Hermopolis, and some of them, presented here, suggests a mother-son relationship. Kiya's position as mother of the royal heir would explain her presence at Amarna. Tutankhaten as king never mentioned his mother in any text, which implies she was already deceased when he came to the throne. See the reference to Marion Eden Krauss here. Number 3. If Kiya was Tutankhaten's mother, was Akhenaten the father or stepfather or brother? Kiya's arrival at Amarna coincides with the death of Amenhotep III in what Ray favors the long co-regency model, when Tutankhaten was about 2 years old. Tutankhamun as pharaoh states at least 8 times in his monument inscriptions at Amarna that Amenhotep III was his father. Since the proscription of Akhenaten seems to have begun with Horemheb, could Tutankhamun be telling the truth? This author's study of Amarna blocks reused at Hermopolis is still in the early stages. It is hoped that in time more material will be identified that has a bearing on Prince Tutankhaten's early life and family at Amarna. Sincerest thanks to the conference organizers, also on my behalf, to the Supreme Council of Antiquities, and again, all this on my behalf as well, to the Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities, to the American Research Center in Egypt, to Dr. Sachi Hawass, and especially to Dr. Christian Bayer for presenting this paper on my behalf. Ray Johnson, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Christian, for beautifully delivering such an interesting paper.
Just I shall mention, because I could of course not answer any question on Ray's behalf. So if there are any questions, you could get in touch with Ray, may write him an email, and then he try to answer your questions. Thank you.